and I had this foggy sensation all around me. And I was like, oh gosh, I feel very dizzy. It feels like my brain is out of my body. It feels like I'm here and I'm experiencing the world here. I had no idea how to describe it. I got worse and worse and worse. I got foggier and foggier. And then after maybe a week or two of that, I was like, my God, this is stuck. I'm stuck like this. The symptoms were 24/7.
Now that you've recovered, Kirsten, from depersonalization and derealization, is getting back to normal really getting back to normal?
Yeah, completely. It's completely normal. It's the exact same as like the before as it is now. We think it's like this glorious kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like, and yes, it is great to be back to that. But like, to be honest, I'm kind of just living my life.
Hey everyone, I'm Sean O'Connor, creator of the Depersonalization Manual, and today I'm speaking with Kirsten, 26 years old, based right here in Ireland. Kirsten first experienced depersonalization derealization disorder at age 21 after a traumatic event, which led to an 8-month episode that she was able to address with EMDR therapy. Then, at 23, chronic stress and anxiety tipped her over the edge again, triggering a second bout that lasted for 14 months until March 2024. Her main symptoms included the world looking visually off, feeling like she was living on autopilot, and obsessive intrusive thoughts about her health, fearing something was wrong with her brain or that she was in deep psychosis. But during that second episode, Kirsten purchased the DP manual looking for answers, and we also had a one-on-one Zoom coaching session together. Kirsten recently wrote to me and said, "We did a coaching call over a year ago, and just 2 months after that, I recovered, keeping your advice in mind." And today, Kirsten is here to share her full journey, what both episodes were like, what helped her to recover, and what life feels like now that she's on the other side. Kirsten, you're very welcome to the channel. Thanks for being with us today.
Hello, hi. I'm very excited to be here.
Delighted to have you on the channel. Kirsten, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I am 26. I'm a private violin and piano teacher and a freelance musician as well. Kind of, anyway. It's a bit tough going out here.
Right. Do you play with orchestras as such?
Around the country, yeah, and do a lot of teaching though, and some weddings here and there as well.
Brilliant. I used to play weddings myself.
No way.
Yeah, I did.
In a band?
I did.
I think you mentioned this one time in our coaching call.
I think I did. Yeah. I played in bands. I was like part of like one and two man groups who would play at the weddings and at the afters and such. Yeah. It was nice. It was
Sounds
nice.
like great fun.
They're really, really good. But yeah. So it sounds like you're a fairly busy person.
Yeah, there's some quiet moments where it's a bit like stagnant, but then some months it can be very go.
Yeah. That's kind of always the same with being a musician. There's like I remember Christmas for me was like up the walls, and then kind of the first couple months of the year you'd be just like, is anybody ever going to give me a gig again? So Kirsten, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with DPDR and how did it start for you?
Sure. So as you said, there's a traumatic incident that happened to me in February 2020, so just before COVID. And then for about a year after that, I was sort of living in this kind of denial bubble that it didn't actually happen, or what actually happened to me wasn't that bad at all. And I was kind of telling myself, Kirsten, you're making a massive deal out of nothing. What happened to you wasn't a big deal at all. And then one day I just remember waking up and I had this foggy sensation all around me. And I was like, oh gosh, I feel very dizzy. And I think I remember going to a friend's birthday party that day. And I actually had to leave. And then I called my parents in a big panic, being like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel dizzy. And they're like, Kirsten, maybe you've had a bit too much to drink. And I'm like, no, I've had nothing to drink. This is very, very different. It feels like my brain is out of my body. It feels like I'm here and I'm experiencing the world here. I had no idea how to describe it. That being said, I had a few friends who had experienced dissociation before who just spoke briefly about it, but without mentioning DPDR as such. And I was like, if this is it, gosh, this is rough. And I've known some people who've experienced this chronically as well there's in my own friend group as well. And I was thinking, gosh, I hope this isn't the start of this. Oh boy. And then I had 8 months of this. So I think the next day after that birthday party, I had my parents come collect me from my university accommodation because I was just convinced I just need like a hard reset at home for like a week, maybe even just a weekend. And then I got worse and worse and worse. I got foggier and foggier. And then after maybe a week or two of that, I was like, my God, this is stuck. I'm stuck like this. The symptoms were 24/7. Whereas at least at the start, during that, shall we call it incubation period, or whatever, it was like foggy here and there, and I'd come out of it and I was like, okay, fine, I'm just a bit ill. Maybe it's a virus. La 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 la. It's fine. And then after 2 weeks, bam, just 24/7.
The process of thinking that like I'm ill, this is a virus or something like that is so common. I thought something like that too, and it's like, what do we do when we're ill? So we stop what we're doing and we go and we go home to the parents, right?
Yeah.
You know, and a hard reset is a brilliant way of putting it. That's because that's what I usually think. Okay, a hard reset. I'll go and I'll sort myself out. I'll calm this down. But what we very often inadvertently do is we create all the space around us to
Exactly.
start, which the anxiety then just fills up. So you become
Exactly. And
more.
it was that kind of, I almost isolated myself immediately, thinking I just needed a hard reset, but by putting myself back into this, by making myself I can't speak, by removing myself from my university setting, I removed myself from my friends, I removed myself from the structure of my life, I removed myself from everything that was keeping me busy and keeping me occupied that normally would have kept those troubling thoughts away. Because I've always been an anxious person anyway. But I came home and I just started ruminating and I was like, gosh, no, this came out of nowhere. What is this? But it's just a virus. I'm fine. And then I thought and I thought and I thought, and oh my gosh, would you believe ruminating is bad for you? So um then yeah, after 2 weeks, it was just constant. Just the fogginess, everything looked wrong. I was convinced I'd like jumped to a different timeline, some really, really crazy thoughts that make no sense now that I say that. And now that I say that, like 4 years on, I'm like, whoa. But I was like, I'm living in a different like plane of existence. Or like my brain has leaking out my ears. Something like that. Just ugh.
Oh, I know, right? It's I mean, some of mine included that my memory was starting to fragment. That I was in the Matrix. I was in a video game. I was dead. I was in purgatory. I was asleep and I couldn't wake up. I was in a coma.
I was I definitely remember entertaining the idea of I'm in this terrible nightmare, but I'll wake up one day and it'll all be over, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. And what's particularly compelling about that is that the feeling of disconnection that happens with DP&DR, it's happening for a very clear reason. It's part of your body brain's defensive mechanism. But when you're going through it, you don't have an explanation for it. It feels like you are in a dream. Or at least that's an interpretation of it. So I kept thinking, like, any minute now, any minute, I'm going to wake up and I'd be like, oh, thank God. you know? But then I became obsessed with, like, okay, but how do I, checking to,
Yeah,
there's things to see. Do you check to see? I was like pinching myself. I was like checking light
did that all
switches.
the time.
Did you? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd sit in my room and like mid rumination, I'd be like, do I recognize that? And like logically, I did, but there's this fogginess everywhere, and I'm like, well, it's very dreamlike, so like I don't know. And even now, as I explain it, I know my descriptions won't make a whole lot of sense because now it's been around 2 years now since I've had it. It's really hard to describe it now. And I think that's like a really common theme amongst your people you've interviewed. It's weird looking back on it, or they don't know how to describe it again.
If watching Kirsten's DPDR recovery story is making you think, I'm ready for my recovery story, the good news is that you can start today and you don't have to figure it out alone. The exact step-by-step process that Kirsten used to recover is in the DP Manual, my complete depersonalization and derealization recovery program with over 10 hours of content that goes far deeper than anything available on YouTube. Tens of thousands of people have already used it to fully recover, and you can too. And if you'd like personal reassurance and guidance from somebody who's been through this, I also offer private one-to-one DPDR recovery Zoom coaching sessions. So if you're finally ready to move from watching recovery stories to starting your very own today, the links are in the description. Back to the interview. When we look back on those moments, those interpretations, I mean, I remember having all those. I remember thinking to myself, like, am I dead? Like, am I in purgatory? Am I spirit floating around? And also thinking, like, that's a bananas thing to think, like, you know?
It is, yeah.
Because you're aware that you're having that thought and you know that that can't make sense. But looking back on it now, until I had a better explanation, that's the explanation that made as much sense as anything else, because nobody could explain, nothing like the doctors, and nobody could give me an explanation. So in a vacuum of a proper explanation, you stick something onto it and to see if that works, you know?
I think actually I had an okay experience with GPs. Like, that is to say, it's definitely becoming more common knowledge that DPDR is a thing. Or I think maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe it would have been less common for doctors to know. But like, I went into my GP and I described what I was experiencing, and he's like, oh, this is just anxiety. But me telling myself that, no, this is an anxiety because it feels different. I was like, yeah, I was convinced I was in psychosis, and I told him I've gone crazy and I need you to confirm it. And he's like, no, this is neurosis, not psychosis. That's something he says to me a lot.
I love I did the same thing. I was like, I went into my doctor and I was thinking, like, I am going to be leaving here in a van.
Yeah, I'm going to be in 3 hours. I will be in a padded room, kind of.
Straight jackets. I love the thing is saying, like, and I need you to confirm this for.
And he's like, no, you're too aware of what's going on for it to be psychosis, and that's the key thing. It's because like I'm sometimes active in forums, not as active as I used to be, where people are telling me I'm in psychosis because like everything feels weird, and I'm like, no, you're too aware of everything. It's almost like DPDR is too much awareness and too much hyperfixation, whereas in psychosis, there's no need to, you're not questioning that at all. It just is what you're experiencing. But with DPDR, there's this doubt, there's the hyperfixation, there's, something is wrong, which is the key thing. And that's a bit of reassurance I can offer if you're having that kind of obsessive worry about psychosis.
Absolutely. So I was certain, Kirsten, that I was going through psychosis. I was certain I was having a psychotic break. And when I looked back on it, after I recovered, I remember thinking to myself, like, so I'm not a doctor, and I certainly wasn't a doctor then. But I know that the symptoms of a psychotic break and of schizophrenia they're very, very serious, and they're very clear. They're life altering, right? And not only, and the thing is I knew somebody who had gone through psychosis, and I knew what that had done to them, but that it was clear to their family and everyone else that something was seriously wrong. And I knew that I wasn't experiencing those symptoms. Like and also I knew that everybody who speaks to a GP, every GP, every medical health professional is trained to spot the symptoms of schizophrenia and psychosis. And no one ever said it to me. My GP never said like, ever mentioned that word. And I asked, and I was like, "Is this what I have?" And he was like, "Absolutely not.
Yeah,
No, no,
I've done that
not."
to my. I've been to two psychiatrists now, and I was like, clearly you're missing something. Like, I'm so trained, I'm so qualified to tell you. Like, as if to say, Kristen, you cannot doubt my years of training. I'd be able to tell like that, and you do not have it.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's like it's anxiety's job is to jump to the worst possible conclusion. So anxiety looks at, so you have this mountain of evidence that says this isn't psychosis. Like, this is clearly not psychosis. Like, you don't have any of the symptoms of this, right? And you're fine. All these doctors are saying it, and none of it matters because anxiety goes, yeah, but what if it is though?
But though, but.
And we get into this debate with anxiety that you can't win because it's not based on logic and data. It's
Yeah.
like it's like having an argument with your shoulder about shoulder tension. It's like having an argument with your heart about heart palpitations. You're not going to win. um,
I was
but
convinced. Now, sorry, I keep
no,
interrupting you.
please, no, please go ahead.
I was convinced that even after all these people were telling me it wasn't psychosis, I was experiencing like a different strain of it, or for lack of a better word, I was experiencing a new type of it, and I was the very first person to ever experience this new type. And that's why no one else, that's why I felt like all these experts were wrong. All these experts with years of training, multiple degrees. I was like, no, this is different though. I'm the first person to go through this type of psychosis. Sorry, I say that now and I'm like, whoa.
I know, I know, I know. I thought that I was going to be in the medical textbooks. That I you know that I had there was going to be O'Connor's DPDR 2.0. I swear to God, I thought that's what was going to happen. It's wild. And the thing is that when you're going through it, you are so sure that that's happening, and then when you look at it from through a non-anxious perspective, all that is, it's anxiety again jumping to the worst possible conclusion. It's dismissing all of the evidence. It's basing that conclusion on zero evidence, but because you are in that fight or flight state, it feels like it makes sense. And it also what it also does is it narrativizes it in a way that feels as massive as what you think you're going through. Because when I got the because my doctor said as well, like my doctor was like, this is, he didn't say depersonalization, but he said that this is anxiety, and I was like, this isn't anxiety. Like anxiety, I felt anxiety before. Anxiety doesn't
Yeah.
make me feel like I'm in a dream and I can't wake up. Like, that's like, you're wrong, you know. Um, yeah, me explaining to medical
Like
health
to adopt.
professionals their problem. You know, oh, you boy, you've got this one wrong.
Let me tell you, I'm just going to correct you on this one now, and I'm right, you're wrong. But backpacking off that is like something I read like well after I experienced this. It was just some sort of kind of self-help positivity book because like I'm fine from the DPR. I'm quite just I could do with being a bit more optimistic. So I bought like a positivity help self-help book. And it said that humans just from Stone Age time, shall we say, have negativity bias already. So it's better to assume that even from the cave, when you lived in a cave, that there's a bear outside than to go out. Like, it's better to assume 9 times out of 10 there's a bear outside waiting to eat you than to walk out and then be, oh God, it's a bear. What? Does that make sense? So we have that built into us already, just naturally.
100%. It's if the example I always like to give is if you're walking through the woods at night and you hear a twig snapping in the distance,
It's a lion.
Yeah,
What else could it be?
it's that we just skip past bear, do not pass go, lion. It's a lion. It's a lion. Ireland, there's lions. What, you can't move with the lions, like, you know.
Yeah, they're everywhere. There's one outside in my garden right now. Like,
And it's like, in an evolutionary sense, that
it
that
makes
level
sense.
of it makes sense because it could save your life. But where it's not useful is when you're trying to make a practical assessment of your own experience with and recovery from anxiety. Then it's a lie and doesn't make any sense, you know? But it feels hard to pull yourself out of that mode of thinking when anxiety keeps kind of ramping it up. But the reason it keeps going is because we get into arguments with it and we research it and we're on the forums and we're, you know, pushing and pulling, and, you know, that feedback loop goes on for as long as we feed it, and I fed it for a long time.
I fed it for ages, and I was on the forums multiple times a day, just Reddit especially. You think it's helpful at first, but and it's really harsh to say this, but there's a reason why the people who are not recovered are still on Reddit searching, and they're still on the forums. A lot of people who are recovered, they've just they've shut the door on the Reddit and the forums completely, because it's just kind of watering the plant of it. You know, you're always giving it more attention, but this user said they experienced this and this user experienced that. I don't experience that, but what if I do? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It,
It's one of the properties of all anxiety based conditions is that the people who recover from it, if they've done it through trial and error, or if they've
mm,
found a guided path out of it, but either way, at some point they realize that talking about this endlessly isn't helping. Because, and you know, and all any like anxiety, like medical health professional who specializes in anxiety would say the same thing, is that like you have to stop researching this, you have to
yeah.
stop focusing on it, because it is essentially a habit of thought. So when you go onto forums like Reddit, just by the nature of them, it's vastly comprised of people who are still struggling with the condition, who are, because of the catastrophic nature of it, are convinced that they can't recover, and also having conversations with other people who say they can't recover. And it's what I found fascinating was that, so back when I was on the forums, and this was it wasn't a Reddit forum, but like there was just other online forums about DPDR. But I would notice that, like, from time to time, somebody would pop into the forum and say, "I recovered. I'm just popping in to say goodbye to everyone. I'm done here,
Yeah.
and I chat to you, right?" And the responses, like, people were saying, "Oh, well, you mustn't have had it that bad. You know, did you ever were you ever really here in the first place?" And I was kind of going like, "What are you talking about? Like, this is, I mean,
I've had it 10 years. You've only had it 2 years,
yeah,
kind of.
yeah. 2 years. Try
Two
10.
years. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
competition at some point. And then also on the forums, especially with Reddit, like you have those kind of karma points or whatever. It's always the sensationalized posts as well, where it's hyper inflated and like obviously the person is suffering a lot, but they're making posts about like it never ends, my life is stuck like this forever. And then you're kind of just drawn to these ones that have all the comments and the shares and yeah.
Yeah, I know, I know. I always try to remember that, you know, as frustrating as that experience can be, and it was for me as well back in the day, but those posts they are coming from a place of pain, and they're coming from a place of frustration,
Yeah.
and also for the 2 years that I had it, like, I was 100% that person. I was 100% on the forums all the time.
I was too.
Oh, yeah, and I would have been very, very negative at times, um and also, I mean, to their credit, I remember when I found the forums first, I had a huge wave of relief that, like, there's oh my God, there's other people have this. So it is, I think, with all anxiety, like forums that pertain to anxiety based conditions, they're extremely useful up to the point where you know what you need to do, and you know that, okay, it is possible to recover from this, and then you have to take a step back from it, And I think the mistake that people make, and certainly the mistake I made for a long time, was to keep looking for more tips and tricks. Because what I had in my head was that someone's going to post something on one of these forums, and I'm going to read it, and I'm going to go, "That's it," and I'll wake up the next day, and all the DPDR will be gone. So,
Yeah.
but I have to find that, or I have to find this combination of advice. So I
Yeah.
ended up being on the forums all the time, and then wondering why that night when I was trying to watch a movie, I couldn't stop thinking about DPDR and the symptoms, having spent the whole day on it,
Yeah.
and being in that cycle for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You mentioned, Kirsten, about other knowing other people who had gone through this, or that you had an awareness of what this was when it first started.
So I'm not going to like give too much information about her, but there was a few people in my year or in my college, and like I went to a small college. Well, it was a department that was separate from the main campus, so there's only maybe 500 or 600 full-time students in it. But there were quite a few people who had it, and they described it in depth. So that's why it's almost, how do I say this? I was almost relieved to know that, okay, this is only dissociation. Whereas at least like when it came to me first when I was 21, I was like, this is dissociation. I know this. Whereas like, thank God I had that, because if it just came to me, if these symptoms just arose and I'd never heard of dissociation before or DPDR, I know I would have been just in a completely much worse state, just of overthinking, just completely upset. And don't get me wrong, I was very upset. I was, oh my gosh, I was so upset, sobbing uncontrollably to my parents, but I knew what it was.
You had an awareness of what it was, Kirsten. So
Mm.
when you spoke to your GP or any therapist subsequent to that, did you mention that when you spoke to them?
I did, and they said, clearly you've been Googling. And I was like, actually, no, I didn't, but I can understand why they said that.
Yeah, yeah. Did it kind of help to make any kind of plan of action with it when you mentioned DPDR?
To be honest, no. I mean, like, not beyond the regular GP advice that they normally give you, like, make sure you're exercising, which, by the way, exercising is very important. And I was in denial about that for a while myself. I was thinking, no, this is a beyond exercise issue. Make sure you're exercising, you're sleeping right, you're eating right. All those things are very important. But I was like, this is like regular mental health advice. Again, I was thinking, but I'm in deep psychosis. This doesn't apply to me. It does. It does apply.
This is I say to people all the time is like you're not that special, like.
I know.
Do
Yeah.
you know? Oh yeah, and I was the same. I remember like a friend of mine when I was a couple of months into DP and DR, and there was a friend of mine who someone I played music with actually, and real lovely guy, and his solution was like go to the gym, and I was like,
Hmm.
the gym,
The gym.
really, dude, really?
Really?
Yeah, okay, okay, oh, the gym, like that's good, and and he dragged me to the gym, and it was one of the best things that anyone could have done for me, because it got me out of the house.
Mm.
It made me work through the anxiety and start like I because you have to socialize, you have to you're chatting to people. Um, Also it gives you a sense of routine.
Mm.
And also it tires you out, which helps with your sleep, which helps to reduce anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in my head I was thinking, oh, this doesn't apply to what I have, as you said, beyond anxiety, beyond exercise. Exercise ain't going to work for
Yeah.
this. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I find if I didn't join a gym immediately. Now I did brisk walking around my neighborhood, which is also very good. So like 30 minutes of walking to the point of your outer breath until you're out of breath. Sorry, I misspoke. Um, that's also really beneficial. Also, yoga as well was really, really good for me. And now yoga, I just did it in my bedroom. I used the app Down Dog for it at the time because if you're a full-time student, I think some colleges are like enrolled in it, so you get it for free. So I did yoga every evening, and that was fantastic. So I did that in both bouts as well, yoga every single night.
Right, right. Can you tell us a bit about the EMDR, Kirsten?
EMDR, so it's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And basically, after my traumatic incident, um, once I finally admitted to myself, okay, what happened to me was actually severe and it was quite serious. I went to my college counseling service and I said to them, this is what I'm experiencing. I listed all my symptoms and I said to them, at this point, I was a bit of an expert from all the forums. So I was like, I know it's dissociation. And I went to the first therapist they signed me up to. I told them why I thought I had it based on the event, and they're like, okay, this is serious, this is more than, because like um not to discredit college counseling services, they can kind of deal with surface level sort of stuff like anxiety and depression. Not that those aren't serious, but like when I told them I'm dealing with something that happened to me, something really bad happened to me, they're like, okay, we need to actually send you on to someone who knows this form of therapy, who can help you out. So I was matched to this therapist. And EMDR, it's a very intense form of therapy. It will bring back all the feelings and the sensations of going of as it's as if you're reliving it. But EMDR, it allows your brain to accept that this actually happened in the past and it's okay to let go of that event now. Whereas until then, I think in a traumatized state, your brain is convinced it's always happening. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that well now, but yeah, with EMDR, it's like your brain suddenly has permission. It's okay, I can let this go. And I can tell you it did work because I no longer remember what happened to me. And normally people, when they've been traumatized by something, they can't remember because the trauma is blocking it. I now can't remember because my brain has let it go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
S- yeah. So it's a process of going back over the incident.
Yeah.
But you
But
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 you
you're in a the idea is that you're in a safe space. You're in the presence of a therapist. And while they're well, if I can remember it correctly now, this is going back 4 years ago. So I did it in my bedroom over the phone with my over Zoom or whatever with my therapist. And he said, think of the incident, now go back to the beach. This is a very rough, like I had to think of the incident and then go back to a place where I could return to if it got too much. And I could go back and forth like that. That's basically EMDR. So yeah, I'm not really explaining this well at all,
no
but
no that makes sense.
you need you EMDR will only work if you've had a few sessions with the therapist, just to get used to the therapist because it's so intense. You need to have that kind of personable relationship first. Like you'll never start EMDR after just one session. I had maybe 5 or 6 sessions with him just talking, and then he's like, "Okay, I think we're ready to start EMDR now."
Okay. Okay. And so you found that to be successful, and then you found that in turn reduced your levels of anxiety, and the
Yeah,
feats of DPDR began to fade away for the
yeah.
first time. Kirsten, is that correct?
I did 2 sessions of EMDR, and this massive weight was lifted from my shoulders immediately after. Now, the therapy sessions of EMDR very intense. Like I had to sleep for the rest of the day after them because all the memories of whatever happened to you are just brought so clearly, but then you're able to let it go.
And did that make sense to you, Kirsten? So the anxiety phased away. So did
Yeah.
it make sense to you that okay, I felt this anxiety and the themes of depersonalization because of this traumatic incident. I have processed retroactively this traumatic incident, so I can let the feelings of anxiety go. Okay,
Yeah.
right. So and then life got back to normal.
I'd say within, so at this point, I had my second EMDR session at around month 8. I think 2 or 3 weeks after that, I was noticing very consistent gaps in my DPDR. So, like moments of complete reality and awareness again. And it would last like a few hours at a time, even. It wasn't just like a few seconds. It was like I was able to go nearly a whole day without experiencing DPDR. So, like, it was a very significant jump in progress.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's fantastic. um, And so how much time then passed between that and the reoccurrence of DPDR?
Unfortunately, not a whole lot of time because I was triggered again by something entirely different. So just more rumination. And that rumination happened because I was finished university. And that led, I suddenly had all this free time on my hands, or not even free time, but it was a different sort of structure. And there were gaps in my day where I was just able to just sit and have a think. And I've learned now, if I have time to sit and think, I have to go do something. But that happened a lot. And then I think, so I finished the EMDR, if I'm right, February or March of 2022. By December that year of 2022, I just turned 23. I was back in the depths of it again. And I think it was just, I was already anxious because when you leave full-time education, it's a very hard adjustment period. And I don't see enough people talking about that online because some people just walk right into a job or whatever. But I just did a music degree. So I don't exactly walk into any job very easily. I was teaching quite a bit, but I still had like 3 or 4 days of the week where I wasn't doing anything at the time, you know? So that led to just a lot of free time where I could sit and think in my room. And I stopped doing my yoga. I stopped doing my exercising. All these healthy habits I built up, I just suddenly stopped doing. Well, not suddenly, gradually, rather. And yeah, I woke up on my 23rd birthday and I felt foggy again. I was like, oh, and same thing happened again. I was like, oh God, I must be sick. Must be a virus. And then the day after then, my 23rd birthday, I woke up, didn't recognize my bedroom, and I just cried. I was like, it's back again. This can't be happening.
It's the moments like that where you think you're past it, and then
Yeah.
and then it comes, and
it hits you like a freight train. You're just like, I just felt it here.
yeah. So it ramps up again, Kirsten, and was your immediate response to think, okay, I need to go back and do maybe more EMDR, or how did you respond to it?
At that time, I knew the trigger was something different because once I'd finished those 2 sessions of EMDR, I never thought of the incident again. I have like fleeting images of it, but I'm just able to think, oh, no, that's fine. That happened 4, 5, 6 years ago, even. I knew this is something different. But again, I was convinced, like it was as if I learned nothing from my last experience. I was like, okay, it wasn't psychosis before. This time, it is. Uh,
Yes, yeah, it's one of the core traits of anxiety is that every time it happens, it feels like the worst one. If it
yeah.
didn't, it would be anxiety. And I think the example I always like to give is think of someone who has 10 panic attacks over the course of a month. By the time they get to panic attack number 10, it's not like they're saying, well, this isn't too bad. Like, this is all right. Like, sure, panic attack 4, no, that was the bad one. Like,
That
this
was
is
the
all right.
bad one.
Yeah, as panic
I'm
attacks go.
kind of a pro at these.
As panic attacks go, no, this one, the one I'm having at the moment, isn't actually not that bad.
Yeah.
You know, that'd be great. It doesn't happen. Every panic attack feels like this one's going to kill me. This one's going to drive me crazy. None of the evidence matters because, again, your brain is saying it's a lion. There's a lion chasing you, right?
In Ireland. In Ireland.
Yeah, in Ireland. In Kerry, like, you know. Lions in Killarney, Kirsten. I mean, what has the world come to?
Is this climate change? People thought climate change is done. Sorry.
Are you happy now? Lions in Killarney National Park. They have the place wrecked. But it is that thing of understanding that anxiety, its job is to jump to the worst possible conclusion. So even though like you've been through that whole thing and you know exactly what it is, you know exactly what it isn't, and then it ramps up again, and all that you just, I mean, I did the same thing. I was just like, none of what I knew mattered, because the feeling
Mm.
was so intense that I was like, oh, this time it's psychosis, oh, this time I'm
Yeah.
going to die, this time I'm actually in a dream and I can't wake up. um
Did you
it's
have
it,
a few separate bouts within the whole 2 years, or was it?
when when I was recovering, so this would have been in year
Uh,
two, I would have had, when I was starting to have windows of time. It would not as long as yours, Kirsten, like, but I would have had windows of time where I would have maybe like a week or a fortnight
yeah.
where I was like, okay,
Whoa, I'm
this
out
is
of
under
it.
control. Yeah, I'm out of it. This is under control, right? And then it would ramp back up, which, by the way, is what happens in recovery.
That's
It's
very
not,
normal.
yeah, it's not a
If
smooth
if
curve.
recovery moved like that, like your manual wouldn't exist. All these
Yeah,
dishonor. Like, to be honest, I'm just
yeah,
being frank. Like, unfortunately, recovery is a bit like whoop, whoop,
yeah,
like that. But the
exactly,
trajectory
exactly.
is always up. But if it was a smooth, straight line, the forms wouldn't exist, and people wouldn't be on Reddit, and your manual wouldn't be here.
It's a mountain range, basically. It's the stock market, but also it's that's what happens with recovery from all habits of thought and behavior. So, you know, it's like if somebody decides to quit smoking, and then they have like a couple that they have like a week where they're just like, oh my God, I actually don't really want a cigarette anymore. And
Uh,
then they have a cup of coffee some morning, and they're just like, I would kill for a smoke,
yeah,
like, you know. And then
yeah,
they start thinking, oh, but I thought I quit, I thought it was done. And it's like, no, 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 this is okay. This is, but if you, the trick is that if you can expect it, if you can say,
yeah,
okay, I'm having 2 good weeks, that doesn't mean it's gone. And also, if I expect there
yeah,
to be a ramp up at some point, but the reason that those ups, that those little spikes in anxiety feel so brutal, it's not because in and of themselves they are a problem. It's because you were doing so well and you're like, God damn it, like I thought I was out of
yeah,
this, you know. I know I'm back to square one. And of course you're not back to square one. You can't, you couldn't get back to square one if you wanted, but it feels particularly cruel
yeah.
when it happens. So yeah, so did you go back into hard reset mode, Kirsten, or what? How did you approach it?
Um, at that time, so it kind of happened over Christmas, so there's actually nothing to do anyway. So that was probably the worst Christmas holidays of my life. And like when people were saying, "I hope you're having a lovely Christmas," I'm like, actually, you won't believe it. You won't believe what I'm going through. Um, but that was I applied for a new job actually in January, just after that. And it was actually that job that kind of saved me, just because, like, if I hadn't applied for that, I would have. And not to say that this is easy either, because I know your first thing you want to do is to just stay inside. You want to hide under your blankets. If I hadn't applied for that job, I would have done that, but the job just got me out of the house. So I did do that, but I didn't exactly have the luxury of doing a hard reset that time because I was at a university and my parents were trying to like say, "Hey, this is the real world." Unfortunately, yeah. Which, no, to be fair, they have to do, and I completely get why they do that. But if I had that I'm saying is if I had the option to retreat into my bedroom and just stay there, I would have.
Yeah, yeah, and you, no one could blame you for that. And like
No,
what,
no.
you know what? Yeah, and when I look back at what, because I was a full time musician in Cork at the time, and I, yeah, and I had to stop working and I moved home with my parents, do my hard
And
reset
that's
because
okay too. Like some
yeah,
people have to do that, and that's okay. But it was just the second time I just didn't have the luxury of doing that. But I really, really wanted to. I really wanted to. And if you have
yeah,
decided to do that kind of hard reset for like a week or a weekend or whatever, go for it.
yeah. I think that that where it can become an issue is where people kind of get into the hard reset mode and then say, right, I can't get back to work. You know, I can't.
Mm.
I'm too afraid to get back to work. Um, you do have to start. You don't
Yeah.
have to, like, click everything back into place within 24 hours, but you do have to
Oh no.
start training yourself back towards the normal daily routines, because if you don't, the more entrenched the anxiety becomes, because then anxiety says
It
to
like
you,
just
well,
kind of seeps into you more and more, and you just feel so trapped by it. Whereas when I applied for my job, there was like, so I applied in January, got the job. I wasn't meant to start until March anyway. And then by the time March came around, I was still kind of like afraid of everything. I didn't have a routine. There was no structure in my life, but the way my job was structured at the time was you'd go in 2 days a week, and then it would build up to 3 days a week. And those were like kind of training days. So you were learning on the job as well. And then by the time it got around to maybe July or August, I was in for my full 35, 40 hours a week. And it just felt like a job. But I did, if you feel like if you've quit your job and you've moved back home or you've done a hard reset, there's no shame in starting small with just like a part-time job or volunteer work or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. It's just that you are making progress. That
Yeah.
progress can be at the rate that you want, but that you're not um reinforcing the habits of anxiety that say I can't do this. Like, so for me, for a long time, I would have said, like, oh, I can't drive my car. That's It's unsafe for me to do. So I was just like, I just won't drive my car. And then I got to a point where I was like, well, I do need to drive my car at some point. So I would get into the car, and it's not like I would, go on a road trip to Belfast, like, but I would just get in the car and I just like drive for 5 minutes, put on some music, come home. That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
go down, go downtown, get a loaf of bread, come back. Like, that was it. But just telling my brain, like, you can do this, you know? Um, the
Yeah.
anxiety that you feel before sitting into the car doesn't need to be there. But you don't do that by arguing with the anxiety or researching it. You do it by getting into the car and going and
Yeah.
doing it, because you have to demonstrate this to yourself over and over again, and thereby start training yourself. Basically, you're telling your brain there's a fire alarm going off, but there's no fire. Okay?
Yeah.
So we can either, like, lose our minds and evacuate the building, or we can just keep working. Just keep doing what we
Yeah.
need to do. Okay, that fire alarm, it's super annoying. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
But are we going to sit here and stare at it and just start, like, panicking? No, we'll leave it be. It's running out batteries. It'll fade out on its own. But you just start to get back to doing the work that you do on a day-to-day basis.
Hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exposure therapy does start small at first. Like, um, it was in my second bout actually that I surprisingly passed my driving test. I was driving with something I completely. Oh yeah, I got a
Nice.
vaulting. Yeah,
Fair play.
it did take me 2 years to learn how to drive because I was just that anxious. I needed, the way some people, like in Ireland, you get your 12 lessons and you're technically eligible to apply for a test. I did like 40 lessons. I was just that nervous. But I still did it, and that's
You're
what
like the
counts.
best driver in the world. Like,
I passed first time, and I was because I got my 40. I got like 40 lessons. I went back to my Revolution.
listen,
I went back to my Revolution. I was like, oh my god, there's so many lessons.
if you had fails, like, you had to get your money back. Like,
Yeah, but I was still, even after I passed, like even I was able to tell myself, oh my god, I'm clearly okay enough. Like my anxiety was telling myself, you're too like crazy to be behind the wheel. You can't be trusted behind the wheel. I passed. And even after that, I was still like, no, no. But this is coming to like the end of my second bout. So I started just doing like driving up and down the road, which I'd done like 100 times at that point already. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is fine. And then, yeah.
yes, yeah.
But yeah,
I
exposure therapy does start small.
it does. Yeah, yeah. Um, I failed my driving test 3 times before I got on my fourth.
Not as bad as some of my friends. One girl fell. One girl fell 7.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, you probably only did 12 lessons to start with. I did 40. So if I didn't pass my first or second time, that's a reflection of me entirely.
Or your driving instructor.
Yeah.
um. So, Kirsten, so you mentioned a few of them towards the start of our chat, but can you tell us a bit more about the symptoms you were experiencing across this time?
I have my little notebook.
Oh,
I So everything looked off. I had intense fear and worry of psychosis, which we'd been talking about. So when everything looked off, it looked have you ever looked through like binoculars or something the wrong way or something like that? That's exactly how everything looked. A bit like that. A big thing I had was exhaustion. Oh my gosh, I was so exhausted during this. It really like even when you're just sitting in your room ruminating, you're tired because your body's like functioning chronically on stress and in fight or flight. And I occasionally had some existential thoughts. One thing I really obsessed over during it, and it's a little existential, was words. When I'm so like on autopilot, am I speaking? Do people understand what I'm saying? And then I'd like test myself, like, what does the word the mean? Like, am I able to define every single word I'm saying? It was weird. And then that was one of my big searches on Reddit as well. Because I felt so on autopilot. I was like, maybe I'm speaking in a different language, like Kristen. Maybe I'm speaking in a different language and no one else can understand what I'm saying. And they're doing their best to keep up with me, but I'm speaking so much nonsense because I'm on autopilot and no one understands what I'm saying at all. Um, yeah, that was really weird. What else did I have? In our call with you, I was really obsessed with memory as well because like I couldn't remember every single like 5 minute increment of my day, and I was like, clearly I'm losing it. But no, you don't have to remember every single 5 minute increment of your day.
absolutely. I used to have
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead,
I don't
Kirsten,
think
please.
no, I don't think there's anything. Oh, something you mentioned in your manual is fluorescent lights being an issue. If I ever walked into Tesco, that's it. I'm just wrecked after it.
Yeah.
There's something about the lighting in Tesco in particular, compared to other stores in Ireland. It's very, very trippy. Like I've compared them. The Duns and the Duns.
Did a blog post.
I've done like a pie chart on them. Um, the Duns and the Lidl or the Aldi, they're fine. Going to Tesco's, whoa. Even to this day, there's something wrong with the lights. I do think they're just a bit too intense
Interesting.
and flickery.
Interesting. I would have I kind of
You
would have
should go
thought
into Tesco after this and just do a
I,
little bit.
oh, listen, I'm going now. I kind of felt I always found that Lidl was more intense, but I think Lidl was also because it was totally silent in there because there's no
Yes.
music, so that kind of like was I felt that was weighing on me more than some bit of kind of background music, like you know.
Yeah, there's one shop I still hate to this day, and I don't even experience DPDR anymore, and it's Pennies. There's something about a Pennies that just sends me into fight or flight the moment I walk in the door.
Yeah, Penny
For like
for
any
international viewers is
oh,
an
primary.
Irish yeah, it's an Irish institution. It's like you, it's an international company, right? But like Penny's in Ireland
Yeah.
is like I mean I remember there was Penny's when I was a kid. Like yeah,
Yeah. It's just like a cheap clothes store, but
yeah,
it's it's just sometimes you walk in and people are behaving like it's Hunger Games and they're fighting over the clothes and the stuff. Um, I've seen a few scenes like that. Shopping centers as well. I couldn't enter those either. I just avoided them entirely.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. The the 5 second memory increment thing is really interesting. Because I used to have that too, and uh something so what I used to do is I'd have something like this where it would just occur to me that like Sean, what did you have for dinner 2 nights ago, right? So now if you ask me that question now, I mean I think okay 2 nights ago I was in an Airbnb with my sisters last weekend, so this would have been on Monday. So I was back at home, and I think what did I have? Was there spaghetti? Maybe spaghetti with some tofu or something like that. Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. Right. No. So it took me, what, 20 seconds to access that information, and I'm still not 100%
Yeah.
sure, right? Um, if you'd asked me that question back in 2005, I would be having a panic attack right now
Yeah.
because I would be thinking, I have lost my memory. I can't even remember what I had for dinner 2 nights ago. I've got Alzheimer's. I'm done. I'm finished. That's it. Um, and again, it's looking at, we experience the symptoms of anxiety through the filter of anxiety. And also we experience normal day-to-day things like just like not knowing what you had for dinner a few nights ago off the top of your head. And then, but anxiety is like, oh, there we go. You're losing
There
your
we go.
memory. You're about to
I
forget your family and friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so. It's just the delivery of that line, and that's going to happen. But I would experience the memory thing a lot. If when I was in university, when I had it, when I was studying, if I'd read or I'd study a page or a paragraph, I'd be like, okay, wait, what did I just read or summarize? Kind of. Or if I was just reading a book even for pleasure, I'd and especially I like to read fantasy where there's like lots of names, lots of like place names. There's like oh heavy plot lines going on, and I'd finish a chapter and be like, what just happened? And like to this day, I'm still sometimes like that. But now I'm able to say, well, no, it was a very dense chapter, and that's okay. I might just
Yeah.
need to skim over it again. But 3 years ago when I had that, if I couldn't remember a chapter, well, clearly my brain has started to break down. There's like atrophy or something like that happening inside. Or yeah, I've developed. I'm developing Alzheimer's. This is like the start of it, and it's like really slow incubation period or something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. It's so wild. It's so wild when you look back on it with the space of recovery and you're just like, what? I look back at that and I'm just like, Sean, what were you doing? Like, but I also don't blame myself because I understand
Yeah.
what I was going through. Um,
It's easy to say
uh,
these things about your worries and your what you're doing like now that you're out of it, because hindsight is always 2020. But when you're in it, you're like you're also in a like problem solver kind of mode as well, because that's what anxiety is. It wants to get to the root of it.
yeah, 100%. And the other example I always like to give is like, imagine somebody who develops agoraphobia. They have panic attack, they develop agoraphobia, but they have never heard of the word agoraphobia. Nobody around them has
Mhm.
ever heard of the word agoraphobia, and they have no reference for what's going on. What is that experience going to feel like? It's going to feel like they've gone crazy.
Mm.
That's the assumption. I've gone crazy. I can't go outside. The sky feels too big. Okay, that's I've gone crazy. But when you put a label on it, then it doesn't switch it off, but it starts to take the power back from it. The obsession with words as well. Yeah, really, really interesting. There was I had a thing where I would like just focus on a word and like say the word over and over and over again. There's a phenomenon in psychology known as semantic fatigue.
Yeah,
And yeah, do you know this?
I know. It's like if you say the words, if you like said your name, like even if you said the name Sean, Sean,
Yes.
Sean, Sean, Sean
Yes.
over and over again, eventually you're like, who is Sean? What is Sean? You just lose the meaning of it, and it's a very transient thing, but it's just because you're so hyper focused on it.
Yes, yeah, yeah. It's this weird little psychological phenomenon. There's a great short story by Jonathan Latham called "Using It and Losing It" that I am determined to make a short film out of. I absolutely adore it.
Ooh.
Um, but like, so that to me now, again, that us chatting about this now, interesting little cool little quirk of the brain. Back in
Yeah.
2005, meltdown.
Yeah.
Meltdown, like
Yeah.
45-minute panic attack. I can't focus on. I've forgotten what this word means. I'll soon won't be able to communicate with people anymore. Definitely Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's wild. Um,
Gosh.
yeah. The
I know because like I'm shaking my head. I'm like, wow, I'm out of that. That's the way I used to like operate day to day.
I know, I know. Um, yeah. The existential thoughts as well. The thing, and as you mentioned, like having existential thoughts from time to listen, like okay, so if you read a book about philosophy, if you watch
Yeah.
a science fiction novel, or if you watch a science
Yeah.
fiction novel, if you read a science fiction novel, you can watch.
Yeah, I mean, Good book.
It's the best book I've seen in ages. Like, but it's like if you read a science fiction novel, if you're watching a science fiction film or a film that has philosophical concepts in it, they are very often they have existential themes, right? So you can think about these existential themes, but it's not about the thoughts themselves. It's about the anxiety, the level of anxiety that you felt when you were experiencing them. So, for me, one of the thoughts that I had that scared the absolute life out of me was about the size of the universe. So
I will sometimes get a bit creeped out by that myself, like, because it's a very anxiety-provoking thought. But I'm just able to say now, ah, you know what? I do not want to think about that right now, and that's the distance.
exactly, exactly. So you can a thought that's about the size of the universe is like it's not inherently frightening, so when I think about that now, I feel maybe a bit creeped out, but I'm also kind of like I'm really humbled by it, and I'm filled with a sense of awe about it as well, and somewhere between like insignificance and also kind of comforted by it. So it can be all those things, but when anxiety is there, it's just like it's just all of the alarms going off at this again. It's just meltdown. Let's just have a meltdown, But but again, what really gave me a sense of understanding the existential thoughts, or just why they were so frightening, was that it's that, like, so I thought about the size of the universe would cause me to, like, fall over, right? But also I would look at like this flask of water, right? And I would start thinking to myself, how is this holding the water in?
I
Why
did
are
that too.
Did you? Yeah, yeah.
Not about flask of water, but I'd be like, this furniture for some reason. I'd look at furniture and I'd be like, someone made that. How'd they make that? Why are those materials there? The wood was carved in such a way. Why? The tools they used for it. I'm exhausted talking about this stuff because, like, oh my God, this is the way I used to just think.
And going to the exhaustion thing as well was that like, if you're I was the same. Because I was 25, and I would be up. I would stay in bed in the morning, so I'd be up at the crack of noon, do nothing all day except
Till noon.
yeah, do
Sorry.
nothing all day except sit at my computer researching DPDR, get no exercise until my friend dragged me to the gym, and then that night at 7 o'clock I would be incapacitated with tiredness and going like, what the hell is going on? Like, I'm 25. I should be up climbing mountains. I should be traveling the world, and I can barely function past 7 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
And that scared the life out of me, because then I thought, well, I obviously have some sort of kind of
Degenerative kind of.
degenerative disease, circadian dysfunction. Something terrible is happening. And then it was like, when I think back from a non-anxious point of view, and it's like, well, if you're feeling anxious all day, your thoughts are racing the whole time. That's exhausting. Your muscles are tense the whole time. Your heart's beating. You're constantly scanning for danger, whether you're aware of it or not. I mean, my God, if you didn't feel tired at the end of the day, like, you're allowed to feel that level of tiredness. But again, at the time I was going through it, meltdown. I'm dying.
Yeah.
I have some awful chronic tropical disease that no one's ever discovered before. And now I've got 2 entries in the medical textbook. It's just, there's going to be a section about me, like, oh God, Jesus, you get this thing and that thing.
Not a section. You'll have a whole chapter soon, Sean. I did too. I was so convinced as well. Like, I am going to the what is it? The DSM-5. I'll be like, I'll be the start of the DSM-6. Sorry.
Brilliant. DSM-5, old news.
No. And the forward will be done. It'll be just a portrait of me being like, this book's about her. And everything she discovered.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I wish I hadn't discovered it, like, but I mean, I just wanted to play music, like, but look, here we are. Oh my Lord. question I always like to ask everyone, Kirsten, and it's a pretty heavy one, but what was your lowest point in the whole experience? Was there a moment that sticks with you?
There are multiple. To be honest, they were just kind of days where my symptoms were so intense that I believed there was no way out, kind of. So I remember one day I was just out walking my dog because my mom said, "Get out, get fresh air, you need it." Because I was just moping, and I walked maybe 200 meters down the road, and I just rang her again, sobbing. It's like, I don't know where I am. I'm completely lost. I'm here with the dog, and I don't know how to get back. And she's like, "Do you need me to drive down and collect you and the dog?" And I was like, this is so pathetic on me. And like, I couldn't think of any other, like, obviously I was suffering, but it was the first word that came to me. It was just pathetic. I had to be rescued 200 meters away from my house. And now I said to my mom, no, and like, I'm sobbing. And I was like, no, just stay on the phone with me until I remember how to get back. I knew how to get back, but I was just so disconnected. So that's one moment. I think of that quite often. I was like, if I ever want to think of just how far I've come, I think of that moment. Because like, yeah, it was a very humbling experience as well. Because like I was sure the neighbors could hear me as well. I'm just sobbing to my mom, like, I just don't know how to get home. And she's like, you turned right outside of our house. I'm like, bear in mind, I live on a straight line. I can't actually go very wrong. Like I go straight line and then it meanders down like this kind of way. It's very hard to go wrong. There's like a turn into a few houses, but that's how disconnected I was.
Yeah.
Um, I think there are a few other nights as well. Like there's one night, there's a night out with some friends in a different town, and that freaked me out entirely because not only was I in a town that, like, normally my town already looks unfamiliar, but a town and I've never been in before. Holy shit, I have no recollection of this town anyway. And I just burst into tears at the table. I'm a crier. I'm a crier. Oh my gosh. One time, a therapist said to me, "You could be one of those professional criers at funerals, like for people who
Geening, like
what
geening.
is that what they call it? So like, if the
Yeah.
person was unknown by, uh, just didn't have much people in their personal lives, I just go over and I'd be like, yeah,
You could actually have a deal where you do the crying and the music for the funeral.
I'm sorry.
Oh my god. Oh, so
Yeah,
you burst into tears at the table.
yeah, and then I just ran out of the restaurant. I paid. I did pay. Like I ran up and I was like, I'm sorry, but I gotta go now. I'm really humbling myself today.
Um, this whole thing is nothing if not humbling.
Yeah,
My God, it kicks you to the curb and it keeps kicking you, and you're like, what did I do to deserve this?
yeah,
I don't think I did anything wrong, but I guess this is my new life now, where
yeah.
I can't walk down the
A
road.
thought I entertained was like, in a past life, I must have done something horrific
Oh,
to do this. I'm not sure if anybody else has ever had that thought. Maybe they have, but I was like, clearly in a past timeline or past life, someone did something so egregious that I'm making up for it.
yeah, yeah. I thought that I was being punished by the universe, and
Mm.
I thought maybe it was because I had been messing around with drugs, because it was a cannabis bad cannabis experience in Amsterdam that had set up the first panic attack, and then I had the second panic
Yeah,
attack a couple of weeks later. But I just thought, like, to quote Raiders of the Lost Ark, or to paraphrase Raiders of the Lost Ark, I had been meddling with forces I couldn't possibly comprehend, and
oh,
now, yeah, no, I mean, it, and what I was experiencing was basically the mental equivalent of sweating, like.
yeah.
That's what it is. That's what it is. It's putting those narratives on it that
Mm.
empower it, because then it's like anxiety is, oh my god, it's this huge massive thing. It's this universal karmic revenge, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's not, like, it's again,
It's not
I'm
that
not that
deep.
important. I'm really not that important.
I'm just one person. Like, it can't be
I
that
just,
much.
yeah, I had a panic attack after smoking weed in Amsterdam. Like, I mean, like that probably happens 100 times a day. Like,
Yeah.
it's grand. Yeah,
I'm
it's
sure
grand.
yeah. But something I remember seeing, and I actually made like a recovery story post on Reddit once, and I say it all the time to myself and to people on forums, is that it's the content of your thought was never the problem. It's your reaction to the thought. And if your reaction is that inflated, then yes, of course, the weed was the worst thing you ever did. Or,
Yes.
but really, you just reacted badly, or like in a heightened way to the symptoms, and then it just set the hamster wheel going.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's very incisive. As we were saying about like the thoughts about the size of the universe, like we've mentioned the size of the universe a couple of times here now, and we're just kind of saying, oh, it's interesting, kind of creepy, kind of kind of amazing, and we breeze
Yeah.
past it, right? So those words in and of themselves are not a problem, but when your anxiety is like 10 out of 10, it's your reaction to those words that it's like an analogy I've been using recently is it's like plugging in a phone. So like the words, the phrase like the size of the universe, it has no weight in and of itself. But when you focus on it, especially in a panic mode, it's like you're plugging those words in and you're charging those words up, and then they hold the charge, and you're like, oh, but I can't think about that again because that's a really scary thought. But how am I supposed to avoid it? Because the size of the universe is actually a thing. And then
Yeah.
it's like it's not about that. It's about unplugging that focus from those
Yeah.
words and but you have to plug in something else. You can't sit there kind of going, "I hope it goes away." It's like you have to plug in something else, and the charge dissipates on its own, and then you come back to it like months or years later, and you're just like, "Oh yeah, the size of the universe. That's kind of interesting." But also, I've a gig like tonight, so I have to change the
Yeah.
strings of my guitar. I have stuff to
Yeah.
do. Yeah, yeah. You just give yourself the permission to let it go.
Exactly. I was just gonna say that when I was so hyper focused on the words, I went to my psychiatrist and I was like, I need to know that everything I'm saying is making sense to you right now. And she's like, it is, and you're allowed to let it go and not think about it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Um. So following on from that, Kirsten, how did your recovery start from the second bout?
The second bout, it was around 7 months in, and my recovery in this was a lot longer. It was a longer process. Something that I think happened to me one day. So I was away doing a kind of residency for an orchestra, kind of. Um, and I was depersonalized, derealized, disconnected the entire time. I was constantly leaving rehearsals. I was so anxious. And then one day, and I feel like this is why it's a bit hard to define what I did. And one day, it was halfway through, I just said, "Oh my God, I'm so tired of letting this ruin my life, letting it dictate every single thing." And I think that's like a big thing, is like when the tiredness of how you're feeling outweighs the fear of it. And I collected myself. I went back into the rehearsal and I just stayed and I was like, you know what? Excuse my French, but fuck it. Like, it's here. And that was actually the start of it. I think just I the accepting that, okay, it's here. It's going to be here and it's going to stay for a while. But I do kind of need to get on with it.
Isn't it so interesting that when we when this first happens, we we desperately want to push it away, and
Yeah.
we are negotiating with it and bartering with it, and then
Yeah.
you get to a point that I absolutely had that moment too, where I just said to myself like, I'm so sick of listening to myself. I
Yeah.
mean, like, look, we're people who we enjoy books, we enjoy movies, we enjoy socializing, travel, all the rest of it. Our lives should be full and they should be rich with different elements and different sources of information. And for that period of time in my life, all I did, all I did was focus on these feelings, and a
Yeah.
thought like the size of the universe would consume me for days, instead of like watching movies and doing things that actually, like, lit my creative fire. I was focused on this nonsense, but
Mm.
I got to a point where I was just like, I'm just so sick of this. Like, I'm so sick of, it's just this, it's
Yeah.
a conveyor belt. It doesn't go anywhere. There's no boss to fight at the end of this. There's no big revelation that's going to happen. This is just going to keep going, like, and
Yeah.
I just thought to myself, like, I'm just going to do some other stuff, because
Yeah.
if it's there, it's there. But like, I wouldn't mind going to the cinema tonight. I wouldn't mind
Exactly. And it's like,
reading a book.
I explained this because sometimes I do log on to the odd like Discord server that I used to be in. And again, going back to, there's a reason why the recovered people rarely go into the Discord server. I go in there like once a month or something.
Mm.
And I said to someone, you have to, eventually you'll just reach a point where you're so tired of letting it dictate your life. And someone would say, but I'm tired now. And I'm like, you're not there yet, because you're still, as you said, no, but like, you're still negotiating with it. When you're tired, you'll feel it here, and you'll just say, I want to go see my friends, and I'll feel like crap, but I just want to see my friends. Or like, I want to go to the gym. I'll feel awful, but I got to do something, you know? And you'll reach that point. And like, you might be tired of it now. I promise you've a bit to go. If you're in that negotiating, like, oh, but like, if you're still battling with it in yourself, you're not quite there yet. And I'm not saying you have to reach this state either. This is just the route I took. But like, it was the route that enabled me to get out again. I carried on with that residency. I did that concert. I was disconnected the entire concert, although actually afterwards, after the concert, because there's this happy feeling of elation after you play a big symphony or whatever. I was like, this is amazing. And I did it well dissociated. And I still did it. And I kept looking for that. Like I did that thing, that hard thing that I normally avoid while disconnected. And it was rubbish. I felt like crap, but I still did it.
Yeah,
And I think that's the
yeah,
key thing. Doing it when it's
100%.
hard, but doing it anyway.
Absolutely. The mistake that we make is that we wait for the anxiety to be gone before we do these things.
It won't. It
No, no.
you kind of have to train it.
Yeah, because if you avoid doing something because of anxiety, in your head you're thinking, I'm just avoiding it. I'm avoiding anxiety. But what you're doing is you're communicating to your brain that anxiety is so important that it gets to decide whether you go to the
Mm.
gym or play in the orchestra or drive your car. And when your brain sees that, your brain says, okay, well, that anxiety is super important. So the
Yeah.
next time you want to go to the gym or drive your car or play music, well, we have to consult anxiety first. Like, and in reality, like, anxiety does not get to have a voice. It doesn't get to have a single vote in what you do with
Yeah.
your life. um, when,
Sorry, if I could just say one thing.
of course, please.
Sorry. Something else I discovered during this journey at around the same point is that your brain, like you as Sean understand words, your brain actually doesn't. Your brain understands actions only. So if you keep avoiding things, your brain's like, well, it's normal to avoid things. Even if you're telling yourself I can go out, but it'll be difficult, until you physically do it, and you do it over and over and over and over again, it may take you, it's like trying to discipline a child or a toddler. You might have to say no 49 times before they eventually say, ah, yes, it's dangerous to put my hand on a stove. It might take that long, but you got to keep doing it because your brain
Yes.
is action based, not word based.
Yes, it's action for mood. We don't
Yeah.
don't wait until we want to do something to do it. We do it, and then the mood comes after us. Like you were saying about playing that concert, then afterwards being like, I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I an example I always like to give is, it's like training a puppy to walk on a lead. You know, you take the puppy out and you have to show it. If you sit and explain to a puppy, like, listen, come here to me now, we're going to go for a walk, right? There's traffic, right? Now, if you
Yeah.
walk in front of the traffic, you're going to get squashed, right? But I also need to walk at the same speed as me. Now, there's a cat down the road as well. When you see that cat, you're going to want to go for the cat, but don't do it, okay?
I have a border collie. We're still doing this 5 years on.
You're still explaining. I told you. How many times?
Told you. But anything that moves or has wheels, she'll give it a chase. She's like,
Yeah.
but that needs to be corralled a bit, I think. it's just instinct for her.
I need to run circles around it. Like,
That big tractor? No. Not in my not
not on my watch. Oh my lord. Yeah. So explaining it, waste of time. You have to demonstrate, you have to show over and over and over and over and over again, and then eventually the puppy picks up but your brain picks up. Other example I like to give a lot of examples. The other example I like to give is that your brain doesn't care what you're practicing. All it cares about is that you are practicing it. So if you decide that you want to learn French verbs and you get up every morning and from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, you practice your French verbs, by the end of the month, you will know those French verbs off the top of your head. You'll just be able to list them off because you've been doing it every day for an hour in the morning. Does your brain care whether or not you ever go to France in your life? Whether you ever use those French verbs in a French restaurant, whether you watch something on Netflix that's in French, your brain does not care about any of that. You may never use those French verbs ever in your life. But if you're practicing them every day, you're telling your brain they're important and we have to keep them around. Yeah. Same with anxiety. These feelings.
If you're practicing avoiding things, it's yeah.
Exactly. You're telling your brain, we have to practice this anxiety. These thoughts and feelings of anxiety were useful to you for the briefest of moments in your life where you actually thought you were in danger. And after that, you have been in no danger whatsoever. So they're not relevant to you. They're not useful to you. Because we get into the habit of practicing them each day, focusing on them, researching them constantly, we are communicating to the brains, we are communicating to our brains that they are super important, that they require sitting down and answering every question that comes to mind, constant research, constant reassurance, and then wondering why we can't stop thinking about it. You're absolutely right. The brain understands action. And this is why when you did the concert and you felt great afterwards, you're not trying to switch it off in the moment. But what you've done is you've communicated to your brain that, like, I did it. And I didn't die. I didn't go crazy. I didn't like drop the violin and start doing the Macarena, right? Or maybe you did, I don't know. But
no, not during Mahler. That'd be disrespectful.
the Mahler Macarena.
Whoa.
Listen, write this down. Put it in the notebook. But the brain has understood that the anxiety that you felt coming up to it wasn't necessary. And then the next time you do a concert, it's not gone, but the volume is down. And then the next time it's lesser and lesser. Exposure therapy, as you were saying earlier, Kirsten. And then you just get to a point where you do a concert and you just forget to feel anxious about it. But it takes time, it takes discipline, and it takes consistency, but it works every single time.
I think another thing that helps me is that one day I was kind of like arguing like with me. I asked myself objectively, what's actually the worst thing that's ever happened to you during this entire period? And the answer that I came up with, even though I felt like I was going crazy, and the keyword is felt because like it's based, there's no logic behind it. I felt like I was going crazy. I felt like my brain was leaking out my ears or whatever. The worst thing that actually happened was I felt really uncomfortable. And then once I realized that, I was like, you know what? I think this is, I think it was shortly before that. I think that thought process happened before I felt that big wave of tiredness that I mentioned a few minutes ago. Like, oh my God, it's just a lot of discomfort. I'm really not It's really not that big. It's a bit of a big deal when you're going through it. But really, like I'm not dying. It just feels awful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it. It's and I think a big part of recovery as well is getting to a place where you, instead of trying to avoid it or negotiate your way out of it, you get to a place of stoicism and you say,
Yeah,
like, okay, like, so I'm going,
fine.
so I'm, yeah, fine. Like, I'm going to the movies tonight. I, I, I'm a bit scared I might have a panic attack, but also if I have a panic attack, I have a panic attack. I've had panic attacks before. They didn't kill me, didn't drive me crazy. Um, and if it happens, it happens. But I will take that option over anxiety getting to decide whether I go and see that movie or not. I'm
Yeah.
not doing that anymore. You know, that's the state of mind that you get to. And yeah, and you're right. I understand that it's
Mm.
just discomfort. It's just like discomfort. It's not pleasant. You don't have to pretend like everything is fine. You have to pretend like you're enjoying it, but you also don't have to um weave your life around it, or you don't have to allow it to dictate your decisions for you.
Yeah,
That's wrong. Yeah, anxiety does not get to do that anymore.
yeah. But the only problem is I have no idea how you get to that place of tiredness. I think it just kind of happens organically, though. Maybe.
Yeah, I think that when people, if you find the right information and you're pointed in the right
Mm.
direction, that allows you to understand it and skip forward. But for people who don't, and I certainly didn't. I mean, I was reading everything I could about it, but I was still just trying to synthesize that information. But you do get to a point where um, it goes from being something that's petrifying to something that becomes, it's just incredibly frustrating, and you get pissed off at it. You're,
Yeah.
I'm, I don't want this anymore. Something I just wanted to mention as well, Kirsten, that you had said earlier that really struck a chord with me was that, the moment of calling your mom and saying, I can't get back to the house, and the feeling pathetic. And
Mm.
that was a huge thing with me as well, was that I felt like I couldn't, I mean, because after college, I was working full time as a musician. Things were good. Like I was working a lot.
Mhm.
I was living in Cork, which is not my hometown, but I've been there for quite some time. Things were good. I was happy out, making money, and then overnight everything
Yeah.
stopped, and I couldn't. I had to cancel all the gigs. I was gigging
Yeah.
with someone, and I just
Yeah.
had to say to him, like, I can't. You'll have to do those gigs on your own or find someone else at short notice, which was unfair.
Yeah.
I had a round the world trip planned.
Mm.
That went out the window, and I lost all the
Yeah.
money I'd spent on that. And I moved home with my parents, and I lost a crazy amount of weight because I couldn't
Mm.
eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't function, and I wanted to work in film, which is what I do now as well. And like that was completely gone. The idea of like directing a set full of people, was just crazy. I mean, I absolutely I couldn't go to the bathroom without having a panic attack because there was a mirror in there. Not to mind,
Mm.
following my dreams, but the sense of sadness, and I felt pathetic, and I felt like
Mm.
this is the time of my life when I'm supposed to start kind of finding my own
Yeah.
feet, and um, building a future for myself. Like, and it's just like the rug just got pulled out, and
Yeah.
and I'm now completely dependent on other people for my well being, and it was it was awful. It was a
Mm.
horrible, horrible thing to go through. So yeah, your description of that, especially the word pathetic, was like wrong. Certainly rang a bell from me.
I know it's a really hard word as well because like I don't like I know when you're going through this you're suffering, but I just felt as you said, like I was dependent on my mother especially, depending on her so much just emotionally, like asking her to hear me out all of my worries, which by the way were a little bit on the nonsensical side at times. Just asking her to listen to them, and she'd be like, "You just," and I know she's from like a different generation, but there was a bit of truth in it. She's like, you just need to just move past it. And like obviously that's really easy for me to say now, but like but when you're going through that, and when I was going through it, she's like, how can you say that to me? These worries are so huge. They're like all encompassing. She's like, you just gotta. But
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the thing, is that there is some wisdom to that, you know? You do
Yeah.
uh the thing is that the core message of moving past it, and like, and everything we've been talking about as well, Kirsten, the stuff about, you just have to play the gig, you have to do it, and that will demonstrate to your brain that you don't need to have this habit going on anymore. It'll take some time. So then your mom saying to you, like, just come on, just get yourself together and start moving again, is
Yeah.
it's not incorrect. But when we're in an anxious state, we
Yeah.
hear words like that, and we're just like, you don't understand,
You
like, you
don't get it. Yeah.
don't get it. You don't understand the scale of what I'm going through. Like my friend saying to me, like, we'll just go down to the gym and you'll feel better. And I'm being like, I'm being punished by the universe. Like, what I mean?
You don't understand the cards I've been dealt here.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's it. Which is also the core of so much of the argumentation that you see on Reddit, is that, like, so someone says, "Oh, I had it for 5 years and I recovered," and then you'll put some post saying, like, "Oh, but good for you, but you don't
5 years
understand the
isn't
cards."
that long.
Yeah, you
5 years
don't
isn't that
understand.
long. I've had it since I was born.
Yeah.
Sorry. But like, and then that isn't to diminish people who have had it that long. Because like, if you have had it that long, you're obviously in a great deal of pain, and I get that. But like, there are also so many examples of people who've had it much longer than Sean and I have had it, and they can get through it. Like, it can be done.
It can always be done. One and one of
Yeah.
the reasons that I started building the library of recovery interviews was to show that, like, there's people who've had it for like weeks and months, and then there's people who've had it for decades, and
Mm.
they've recovered, and they can all recover,
Yeah.
because the length of time doesn't matter. Um, there's no line that you cross. It's not like, okay, well, after 6 years and 4 months, like, then you're in trouble. Like, it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's thinking of it as crossing some chronological line. It doesn't make a scratch of sense. And in fact, it's just anxiety. It's just anxiety saying,
Yeah.
but what? But okay, someone else recovered after a couple of years, but I don't know about you. Yours might be different. What's at the core of each one of these worries is essentially anxiety insisting,
Yeah.
what if yours is different and you can't recover? It has no data to back that up. Um, but it feels real when you're going through it, because anxiety's job is to jump to the worst possible conclusions. It
Mm.
doesn't matter how long you've had it. It doesn't matter what caused it. Is still the same temporary, harmless anxiety-based condition. Just like all anxiety-based conditions, you can recover. You can and will recover from it. People recover from this every day of the week, all the
Yeah.
time. Even
Yeah.
Reddit is like littered with people who have recovered. They're just
Yeah.
like, okay, got it. I'm done. I'm out. Okay, okay, bye. I'm gone.
Yeah.
It's
But
it's
again,
everywhere.
it's that negativity bias with Reddit again that you're just so like, oh, they recovered. They only had it 3 years though. I'm on like year 4 and 5 months, so I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you're like searching for more who are like you as well.
What's really interesting as well is that, like, I speak to a lot of people who developed it from a bad drug experience, and I speak to a lot of people who developed it just from a panic attack. So, in our cases, right? Um,
Mm.
the people who I speak to who developed it from a weed experience or a bad drug experience will almost always say to me, "I wish I had the kind of DPDR that wasn't triggered by drugs, because I put something into my body, and I
Yeah.
have I have corrupted myself with this. I've made this terrible mistake. I wish I had the kind that was just kind of au natural, right?" And then the people who have it from a panic attack and there was no drugs involved, will almost invariably say, I wish I had the kind of DPDR that was triggered by a drug, because then I could
Yeah.
point to something. I could say, well, that's the thing that caused it, because then I just
Yeah.
avoid that and I'll be fine. But Mike
Yeah.
came from within me, so I'm always going to be at the mercy of it. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what the cause was. It doesn't matter how long it's lasted. You will always jump to the worst possible conclusion about your situation, because that's the nature of anxiety. But when you understand that, give yourself the permission to feel that. That's okay. But stop arguing with it. Stop feeding
Yeah.
it, and just say, okay, I
Yeah.
feel that way. That's frustrating. But I still will recover, and I'll start training myself into doing that.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. Um Kirsten, how was the DP manual helpful in your recovery? And how did you come across it, by the way?
I came across it through Reddit. People were saying, "Oh, this." I read the manual and I recovered. And to be honest, I've seen like, no offense now, I've seen a lot of grifters online about this, and it really does piss me off about this condition. I was like, oh, let me guess, he wrote like a 30-page leaflet, and it has like deep breathing exercises. Sure, but no, this is actually like 300 pages of solid information and tips and advice. So I bought it anyway, and I liked what I read a lot was like the questions at the end. Because there you had like drafted up like specific questions that people have asked over the years, or like kind of like frequently asked questions, and I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I've always wanted to know what this means. But would you believe it's actually a normal part of this? Or there's also the audio tracks as well. Like if I was like especially on like public transport or on my way into town, again trying to do exposure therapy, and if I was really telling myself, oh, I don't know about today, it's going to be bad today, I'd listen to your tapes and I'd be like, actually, you know what, that was a bit of a confidence boost, I can go into Tesco today. It is okay. No
That's
fear.
great. Yeah,
uh
yeah, that's great to hear. And was the Zoom coaching session helpful, Kirsten?
that was extremely helpful, because like I could ask you like questions that weren't found in the manual. That's I kept going back to that during the Zoom call I had with you. I was like, oh no, but trust me, I'm the basket case of basket cases. You've no idea what you're dealing with here. Um, but no, I'm not a basket case. You're not a basket case. It's just DPDR, and it's just heightened anxiety, and it is extremely possible that you'll recover from it.
Yeah, yeah. When you do the correct things, it's inevitable that you recover. So now that you've recovered, Kirsten, from depersonalization and derealization, is getting back to normal really getting back to normal?
Yeah, completely, completely. Um, I actually don't feel the need to elaborate on that, because it just is. It's completely normal. It's the exact same as like the before as it is now. Like the before DPDR.
I love that answer. Yeah.
Mm. Sorry, I'd elaborate, but I just start rambling. It just is.
Do you know what? Somebody said to me recently, he was talking about normality, but he was saying that we kind of we fabulate it, or
Mm.
we hype up
We
reality.
we we heighten it up to what we think it's like this glorious kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like, and yes, it is great to be back to that. But like, to be honest, I'm kind of just living my life. But like without the nagging little voice in my head saying, "Oh no, 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 you can't do that," or without all of these awful physical sensations.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Um, when I had DPGR, I remember thinking that, like, if I ever recover from this, I will
Or
never.
celebrate or something like
I,
that.
oh my
I'll be
God,
celebrating every day.
I'll organize a festival. Like, I'll every day would be like Christmas. I will never not be thankful for the beauty of my life, and of just be able to appreciate it. Nah, you just get back to normal. You just
Yeah.
get back to being like, Jesus, the rent is overdue. I I
Yeah.
I was just like, I need to move out of my parents' gaff, like, because they're wrecking my head, like, and I'm wrecking
Yeah.
you get so boringly back to normal that
Yeah.
this musical number that you think was going to happen, like none of it happens, and also because you've been getting back to normal for a while, like
Mm.
people just kind of see that you're okay again, and everyone assumes that it's quite boring, but in the best possible way.
In a great way. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. um, so if there's going to be people watching this interview, Kirsten, who might be going through DPDR, who may be going through a very similar experience to what happened to you. Maybe they're on their second bout of it. Maybe they had similar triggers or traumatic experience. If you could speak to yourself back when this was happening first and speak to the people watching this going through something similar, what advice would you have for them?
I think, yes, you're suffering. It's important that you do, but I think eventually at some point you just got to take action. You'll reach that again, you'll reach that point here where it's just like, I got to do something. And when that happens, go at it. Keep going at it, because I really feel like when that happens, you're at the turning point. But also just be kind to yourself. It's not easy going through this, but don't be too easy on yourself. You can't let that little thing in there win.
So you're pretty active on TikTok as well, Kirsten. I see you post a lot of music related content.
Something like, yeah. Uh, Trying to. It seems to be what the youths do.
Yeah, yeah. I had to set up TikTok to basically to promote the work and the book and such, and it feels strange being a man in his 40s putting TikTok on his phone, but yeah, it has to be done. That's how the youth are finding their information these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it is something very humbling as well. Again, going back to that word, by putting yourself online this way as well. Like if I have to promote myself for weddings, I'm like, oh my God, can you like the post, please? So, can you comment so that it's more people are noticing the post? And it's just so embarrassing.
Okay, well for everyone watching this, go straight over to Kirsten's TikTok and make sure to like and comment on absolutely everything. Um, Kirsten, I have enjoyed this so much. It's
Thank you.
always a joy to speak to a fellow Irish person, but also to I know. And do you know what as well? I think it's I know we've been laughing our heads off for a lot of this interview. I think it's really important for people to see that too. That like it's not, once you come out, okay, this is incredibly hard when you're going through it. But once you're out of it, you are out of it. Like, and if you want to look back on this whole thing and laugh your head off at how bananas the thoughts that you were having were, that's okay, and it's a healthy way to process it, and why not? So yeah, I've enjoyed this so much, Kirsten. Thank you so much for your time.
Anyway, thank you.
We maybe even we could think of doing like a follow-up interview in a year or two or something like that, just to kind
Sure.
of I'm always fascinated to get people's kind of perspective on as more time goes by. But yeah, listen, thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed this so much, and keep up the good work, and we'll keep an eye on your musical career, and it was a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.